Reimagining the housing crisis in Trinidad and Tobago. Former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair once remarked that some groups remain excluded from the core of society, and we haven't figured out how to properly integrate them. This is certainly true for Trinidad and Tobago, especially when it comes to housing. Back in November 2013, all three national newspapers published a startling revelation. The Housing Development Corporation, HDC, tasked with providing affordable homes, reported that there were over 214,000 applications for housing units, far more than they could handle. Worse still, the HDC had run out of land for new developments and could only address 5% of this demand. Additionally, the HDC halted new mortgage approvals due to a TT $225 million in non-performing loans, choosing instead to recover funds from existing defaulters. 12 years later, in July of 2025, the situation remains unchanged. Despite little population growth, the demand for homes is still near 200,000 units, highlighting the failure of the system to make any meaningful progress. A persistent national crisis. According to the United Nations Millennium Development Goals Report 2012, for Trinidad and Tobago, between 10% and 15% of households still lack access to modern sanitary toilets. This statistic aligns closely with the national poverty rates, 16%, and the housing shortfalls recorded by the HDC. It reveals a much deeper systemic issue. The state can no longer meet the housing needs of its most vulnerable citizens. Surprisingly, it's not only low-income families that are struggling. Even middle and upper middle-class applicants are finding housing prices out of reach. Affordability is a growing problem across all income levels, leaving many residents disenfranchised and frustrated. This, in part, helps explain the growing desire among citizens to emigrate, seeking more stable living conditions abroad. Where are the homes? Despite the overwhelming demand, an honest look around most neighborhoods reveals a different picture. As previously suggested, a simple drive through any community would show a noticeable number of vacant lots, abandoned buildings, or dilapidated homes. It's not unreasonable to estimate that 10% of residential plots in neighborhoods across the country are underutilized or neglected. Unfortunately, there are no official statistics on these vacant or derelict lots. However, many of them are already connected to essential infrastructure like electricity, water, sewer lines, and roads. Unlike new greenfield sites, which would require full utility setups. This presents a significant opportunity for cost-effective housing expansion, provided these sites can be brought into active use. The role of site value taxation, SVT. Implementing a site value tax, SVT, could be the catalyst for real change. By taxing underutilized urban lots based on their value, landowners would be compelled to either develop or release them to the market. If they don't, the state could acquire these lands and allocate them to eligible citizens for home construction. The HDC could shift its focus from massive housing developments to facilitating ownership and development on these now available plots. Critically, housing prices would drop because land speculation would no longer be profitable. SVT would reduce inflated land costs, aligning them more closely with actual usage value. This would empower more citizens to afford homes, as the imbalance between land, labor, and capital would be corrected. The result: increased purchasing power and widespread access to housing that's currently out of reach. A vision for a housing revolution. With land prices stabilized, the housing sector could undergo a transformation. Construction would become more efficient, cost-effective, and high quality. The use of economies of scale in materials and labor would bring prices down. Urban planning would improve, and unnecessary urban sprawl, which strains public resources, would be curbed. Many of the country's infrastructure issues, such as inadequate 24/7 water supply, are partially the result of trying to serve widely scattered populations. Public utilities like WASA, Water and Sewerage Authority, spend vast amounts maintaining far-flung infrastructure. With just 1.325 million people spread across a large area, these systems struggle to operate efficiently. The situation is even worse in Tobago, where 55,000 residents are dispersed over 116 square miles, making it economically unviable. By consolidating residential development in already serviced areas, SVT could drastically improve infrastructure efficiency and reduce public expenditure on roads, electricity, and water. Rethinking the housing problem. Is the housing crisis truly a shortage, or is it a distribution and utilization issue? If we continue with our current policies, tweaking the system here and there, we will only worsen the crisis. What's needed is a complete shift in thinking. There are too many vacant, underused, or deteriorating properties, and not enough urgency to bring them into productive use. Vertical housing, multi-story apartment buildings, should be a last resort, not the default. The Caribbean lifestyle and culture are not naturally suited to high-density vertical living, except perhaps in city centers, where high-rise buildings make sense for commercial proximity and port access. Urban renewal through SVT. One of the most promising aspects of SVT is its potential to revitalize slums and urban decay. Areas near major cities that have deteriorated into low-income or informal settlements could be declared development zones. Residents could be relocated to improved housing in other parts of the country using land acquired under SVT and made available at fair market rates. With more citizens now in gainful employment, the demand for improved housing would naturally follow. As these inner city slums empty out, they could be redeveloped into commercial, residential, or mixed-use spaces without the government having to pay exorbitant compensation, which is often the case now. These transitions would occur smoothly and amicably instead of triggering public protests or legal battles. Financing wouldn't be an obstacle. Local financial institutions have enough idle capital to fund the majority of these housing developments. Rehabilitation and maintenance. Apart from building new homes, it's crucial to renovate and maintain the existing housing stock. Shabby, decaying buildings detract from national pride and tourist appeal. If Trinidad and Tobago aspires to become a developed nation, then standards of housing appearance and maintenance must improve. Our buildings, residential and commercial, are amongst our most visible national assets. The continued rise of slums and dilapidated neighborhoods is not only a national embarrassment, but a deterrent to tourism and foreign investment. Laws already exist that require property owners to maintain their premises, but enforcement has been lax. Greater public awareness and community pride must supplement legal enforcement. Conclusion. But by implementing site value taxation, unlocking underused land, and shifting the role of the state towards facilitation rather than construction, the country could trigger a housing revolution. Homes will become more affordable, cities more efficient, and communities more vibrant. This transformation requires political will, public awareness, and a willingness to break from outdated systems. If these changes are embraced, the vision of affordable, accessible, and dignified housing for all can become a reality. To get more on this subject, please access our flagship course entitled Native Society, whose link is in the description, profile, bio. Thank you.